Macie's presentation is entitled The Effects of In-Furrow Fertilizer on Peanut Germination.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Macie.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Camwright. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Macie Wheeler, a master's student at the University of Georgia under the co-advising of Dr. Scott Mumford and Dr. Brian Schwartz in the Crop and Soil Sciences Department. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the effects of in-furrow fertilizer on peanut germination. Starting with my outline, I'm going to start with the introduction, the in-furrow fertilization, why or why not, my background and objectives, materials and methods, results, the summary, research in progress, and in the future, acknowledgments, and then any questions you may have. Starting with the introduction, we're talking about the cultivated peanut, Arachis hypogea L. And the peanut is not a major crop in the United States compared to corn and cotton. It is a major and significant crop in Georgia. Georgia is the #1 peanut producer in the U.S., producing around 50% of the peanuts, with only 324,963 hectares in Georgia and only 3,400 peanut producers. In 2019, the farm gate value of $600 million was produced by Georgia peanuts. Peanut seed is one of the highest input costs at 19.7 seed per meter at $1.99 per kilogram is around $312 per hectare in seed alone. With these high values, it is crucial to protect the seed and germination rates. In-furrow fertilization, why or why not? In-furrow fertilizers have never been recommended in peanut or other row crops. Typically, at-plant fertilization occurs in a 5.1 by 5.1 centimeter application in most row crops like corn and cotton. A 5.1 by 5.1 centimeter application is 5.1 centimeters to the side and 5.1 centimeters below. The utilization of in-furrow applicators for inoculant in peanuts has provided opportunity for industry to recommend other in-furrow products, including fertilizer. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Riser, a nutrient ag solutions product with a 7-17-3 plus micronutrients formulation. The recommended rate in row crops is 9.3 to 46.8 liters per hectare. In peanut, the recommended rate is 18.7 to 28.1 liters per hectare. Currently, starting with my background and objectives, currently UGA Extension does not recommend fertilizers on peanut. Industry is recommending in-furrow fertilizers to improve stands and yield with minimal data to support these recommendations. So my objective of this experiment is to evaluate the impact of in-furrow fertilizers on peanut germination and emergence rates. As you can see in this picture in the bottom, there are rows with spotty stands versus one single uniform row right here. This uniform row is due to a clogged tube where in-furrow fertilizer was being applied. The other spotty rows, for example, these three, had 18.7 liters per hectare of in-furrow fertilizer applied. In the picture above, on the left, is 4 untreated peanut seedlings, and on the right is peanut seedlings treated with in-furrow fertilizer. Taken on the same day after planting, notice the burning on the treated seed as well as the lack of vigor. Going into my materials and methods. Here you can see my plot plan for this experiment. Riser, again, a 7-17-3 plus micronutrient formulation, was tested at 4 rates, a non-treated check, and then in 18 replications. This was done in a randomized complete block design. Materials and methods. The treatments, I had an untreated and then Riser and an in-furrow fertilizer at 4.7, 9.4, 18.7, and 28.1 liters per hectare. The total carrier volume was 65.5 liters per hectare. Peanuts were planted in a bare ground greenhouse with optimum soil temperatures and moisture for germination and emergence. Georgia 07W seed was treated with Rancona BPD. Plots were 0.61 meters long by 0.31 meters wide with 12 seed planted in each plot. Seeds were planted 5.1 centimeters deep and treatments were applied over the peanut seed before furrow closure. Emergence was assessed daily from 6 to 14 days after planting. Analysis on variance was conducted using the Proxmix function within SAS and the means of significant main effects were separated using Tukey's LSD test at a p-value of 0.5. Here you can see the greenhouse that I conducted this experiment in, and the outline portion of this picture on the left is highlighting riser from the untreated to the highest rate. You can clearly see the difference in stand from left to right, left being untreated and right being the 20, here's the left side, and then the right being the untreated at 28.1 liters per hectare. And then on the right, there is a picture of 4 untreated peanut plants compared to treated peanut plants 14 days after planting. Notice the yellowing, coddling, burning, and rotting of the seed. So here are my results from this experiment. I'm going to set up my slides by saying the x-axis is days after planting and the y-axis is the percent of emergence for this slide and the ones to follow. For this graph in red was the untreated check at 19% emergence at 6 days after planting and jumped to 84% by 14 days after planting. The percent germination for Georgia 07W seed is around 80 to 85%. Looking at the untreated check and 2 low rates of riser that are highlighted in this graph at 4.7 liters per hectare and 9.4 liters per hectare. These rates at 6 and 7 days after planting were behind, but caught up or were similar to the untreated check by 14 days after planting. As you can see, based off the asterisk, there's a significant difference from the untreated check on 6 and 7 days after planting. Moving on to highlight all the rates of fertilizer, but focusing on the 2 high rates of fertilizer, which are the recommended rates by the industry. Again, the significant difference is marked by asterisk. And as you can see, the rate of 18.7 liters per hectare never got past 66% germination at 14 days after planting. The rate of 28.1 never got past 43% germination at 14 days after planting. Higher rates of fertilizer reduced emergence from 6 to 14 days after planting from the loss of about 20% or more in emergence compared to the untreated check. In conclusion, untreated had overall better germination and emergence of all seed planted than riser treatments. Untreated had quicker germination and emergence than all rates of riser at 6 and 7 days after planting, and untreated had better germination and emergence than 18.7 and 28.1 liters per hectare at all dates. Based on these results, with riser at $2.24 per liter, plus seed at $1.98 per kilogram at the recommended rate of 18.7 liters per hectare, a grower potentially lost 22% of seed and the cost of material equaling $112 per hectare in loss. At the recommended rate of 28.1 liters per hectare, a grower potentially lost 49% of seed and the cost of material equaling $203 per hectare in loss. UGA recommendation is confirmed. Do not apply In-Furrow fertilizers in peanut. And again, these calculations are based on just seed alone, not considering replant decisions when your germination rate is at 43 or 44 and 66%, and not considering yield loss from other factors throughout the season. So my research and process and in the future. Again, this experiment was conducted in a greenhouse with optimum soil temperatures and moisture. Subpar conditions could make germination and emergence worse. Currently, there is a dry land and irrigated trial being conducted in Worth County, Georgia, which will be evaluated throughout the growing season and taken to yield. This will be repeated in the greenhouse this winter and repeated in the field next growing season. Multi-state trials are also being conducted in the peanut belt to evaluate the effects of In-Furrow fertilizers in different climates and growing conditions. For my acknowledgments, I would like to thank my 2 co-advisors, Dr. Scott Mumford and Dr. Brian Schwartz, for their support thus far, and Dr. Hanna for letting me conduct this experiment in his greenhouse, Worth County Extension and Worth County growers for their cooperation, and Georgia Peanut Commission and the Southwest District Extension for the funding of this project. And I will take any questions if you have them, and my email is below if you would like to ask me anything else.
Thank you, Macie. We have one question here to start off with from Sham Tullery. Macie, if untreated is better overall, why is industry recommending in-furrow fertilizer applications? I'm interested to see what your answer to that's going to be myself. So,
Well, that is a great question. And the question was, if you didn't see it, if untreated is, oh, the question went away. Sorry. Basically, that's why I'm doing this research. We do not understand why this is being recommended. If the data, they've seen my data so far. Of course, I haven't finished the in-field trials, which is going to tell us a lot more, and especially taking it to yield. But we will see after we can finish conducting these experiments. But yes, I asked myself that question.
okay. Dr. Pilon has a follow-up question to you on that. Why did you use this cultivar? And how did you measure germination?
So the question was, why did you use this cultivar and how did you measure germination? So I use this cultivar because it is what Dr. Mumford had at the time when I just started grad school in January, and which is when we started the experiment in the greenhouse. And then measuring germination, I came in and did stand counts every day from 6 to 14 days. And we also had game cameras set up in the greenhouse to catch anything that I didn't catch.
Okay. And any further questions? This comes from Dr. Tim Gray. So did fertilizer affect germination or did it affect emergence? Did the seed germinate and die? I guess the follow-up is, or did it never germinate?
I can go back to my pictures. As you can see in these, I don't have the rates of fertilizer, but the higher rates of fertilizer ended up with something like this. So it looks like they started to germinate and then they never popped out of the soil. This is what we dug up in the greenhouse. And then rates like the 18.1 liters look like this, where they would come out of the soil and then just turn yellow and coddle like that. And then at the bottom, the rotting seed was what the majority of the highest rate of fertilizer looked like when we dug them up at 14 days after planting.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for a presentation.
Thank you.